Me ducks, it's Simon here. Welcome to the Hermit's Cave. My favourite time of the week is Saturday, 4 p.m. here in the UK. It is a grey, miserable, rainy day. So I've got candles lit, lights on, and it's just so nice to see so many people in the chat already here and waiting for my interview today. So, without further ado, you can all see from the title the person I'm going to be interviewing today. It is Justin, my friend Justin, who has the channel Justin Michael. So I'm going to bring him here in and let him say hello to everybody.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me on, Simon. I appreciate it. It's a pleasure.
Good to see you. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. I'm excited to be here. I've been putting together we're rearranging furniture in the house. So I've just been sort of rearranging furniture and staying busy around the house. So other than that, I'm pretty good. So
yeah. Do you generally get Saturdays off? Is this a normal day off for you?
Yes, Saturday's always off for me.
Right.
So the weekend's usually the only time I get to spend with Steven because Steven works Monday through Friday. So if I have one of the 2 days off, I'm happy. So
that's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I hope I'm not cringing too much on your time there.
No. He's actually sleeping.
Oh, is he? Oh, that's not too bad then.
No.
Yeah. So you're 5 hours behind. You're in Philadelphia, aren't you? That's right.
Yeah, it's 11.
5 hours behind.
Yeah.
Until tomorrow. And then we're 4 hours for the next one.
So I don't know when our clocks go back, right? But it's probably after yours, I would imagine.
Yeah. I think if it's the same all across the States, then it's next weekend, because I was talking to Jen earlier and she was saying hers are next weekend and ours is this. So for a week, we're closer together, but that'll all change. This clock business, I don't know why we do it. It's so antiquated and I just don't get it.
Yeah. Well, I think we could, at least as a global community, maybe agree to do it all at the same time. You know what I mean? Because we've increasingly become a smaller world and we're all sort of connected. I mean, so It would be nice if they did it all, sort of in sync. But I guess the weather patterns and, the daylight patterns in other countries may be different.
Yeah, that's true. But I don't know what difference a week is going to make, but it's bad enough trying to work out where people are in the world anyway with the time difference without it then swapping twice a year. But anyway, so do you want to start off just by telling us a little bit about yourself? So if there's people here in the chat who haven't come across you yet or your channel, do you want to just do a bit of an intro and tell us a little bit about yourself?
So I'm Justin Michael. I have a little YouTube channel called Justin Michael. It's my my name. It's my first name and my middle name. It's not my actual last name. But I just basically, have fun with my decks. I do, deck shares and talk about different creators and artists. Recently, I started doing interviews. So I'm looking forward to doing more of that. I'm actually meeting with Robert M. Place on November 10th for my next interview. I previously interviewed Rachel Pollack and Vincent Petici, so that's been very exciting. So this will be my third in the installment called The Titans of the Tarot. So
brilliant. So, and you've had a channel since January, I believe.
November, I believe. So I tried to figure this out myself, but my oldest video on my channel is actually from last November. So I'm just thinking of November as my channel birthday for that, but I maybe deleted a video or something, but I'm pretty sure it was November because I remember going up the mountains and telling someone I just started a YouTube channel. So it was very close to November, whenever it was.
The one that I saw that was showing for me as your first, it was a silent kind of flip through. And I was thinking, wow, how far you've come. Because for me, it feels like you've been a part of this community forever. And then I looked, the date on that one said January, but again, there could be some deleted ones. And I was thinking, Justin just seems such a part of this community that it's hard to believe that it's only 9 months ago that you did your first kind of silent flip through of these cards, and the journey that you've been on in that time, to be interviewing people like Rachel Pollack is just incredible.
Yeah, it's exciting, and it's just I've evolved and just sort of had fun, and I've been inspired by other people in the community as well. And I think it's just sort of taken a life of its own because it's become more of a way to socialize for me, and like, it's a way I connect with my friends first and foremost on YouTube. So I think that's mostly what it's about. When I started, I think you were probably one of my first friends in the tarot community because I would watch videos, but I didn't really know anyone else, and I think maybe Robin from Toastal Tarot might have been the second person I actually spoke to. But I would just watch, and observe. And then finally I reached out to you and we started chatting and we became, fast friends. And of course I have a lot of friends now. I mean, too many to even count and name. But yeah, it's been like anything else in life. It's just sort of progressed, so.
Yeah, and I still remember the day you did reach out to me. I can remember it was early one morning. I was just arrived at work, and you was telling me a bit about yourself and your partner and where you lived, and it was really natural, a very natural sort of easy conversation to have. So, and I always appreciate those sort of connections when they're made.
Yeah.
So, how did you even stumble across the tarot community online? How did that evolve?
Oh, well, I was very into, I had an interest in tarot at an early age, but of course years went by after that where I didn't really get back into tarot until sometime like just after college. I got like another deck of cards. But I was sort of learning about different things. I was, YouTube's great because, we're in a different age now where you used to have to read a lot of books, but now there's a lot of videos you can watch and documentaries and things. And I'm very much like a documentary person. So I would research things on YouTube all the time. And one of my interests was Carl Jung. And so that Carl Jung, like reading about Jung and watching the different channels dedicated to Jung, it sort of sent me towards like alchemy and hermeticism type interest. And of course, tarot was a part of that. And I was like, I always had a connection to tarot cards. I always loved them from when I was a kid. And I just started studying tarot. But of course, I would watch videos to like see which decks I would like. I would watch to learn. There were a few different channels, like Kelly from The Truth and Story. I would watch, different people where they would give you sort of advice on how to read the cards. And then just slowly but surely, it became my main focus. Tarot became like my main interest. I still have a lot of other interests, but for the most part, it's just sort of consumed all of my free time. So, all of my books on my shelf are tarot books. You know what I mean? I have all these decks. It's like, how did this happen? But,
Yeah. And it is a wonderful time in which we're living. I can remember visiting my grandparents' house when I was a kid and being fascinated with these volumes and volumes of reference books and encyclopedias, and we've just got it now at the touch of a few keystrokes, haven't we, on a keyboard, and and that's how I find the community. It was a deck that was in the bookshop that didn't show me any images, and I didn't buy it, and I got home and I was thinking, I wish I'd bought it. I wish I could see some images. Then I thought, I wonder if there's anything on YouTube, and it just kind of started from there, really. Then I found this whole sort of community. But so, and I want to come back to Carl Jung because that's a question I've got as well for you a little bit later on. But just sticking with the theme of YouTube and your journey. So, if there's people watching this, what could they expect if they was to come over and give you a sub? What sort of content you put out? You mentioned the interviews, but
yeah, I think mostly, I mean, I'm looking at different decks that interest me, talking about different creators, Um, for the most part, it's just sort of having fun with cards and doing deck shows. Occasionally I will do like little side projects, like I had a numerology project. Um, but for the most part, it's sort of hard to fit into a box because I do a little of everything, I think.
Mm.
Just sort of having fun with tarot, I think is what I do.
Yeah, and that's brilliant.
Fun, share my decks. I share usually. One thing I've been doing lately is I will show like multiple decks and not just like one deck. Like, and I'll usually talk about them. I'll try and fit them together, and people seem to like it. So
yeah, and that's the sort of content I like as well. If I'm watching or if I'm subscribed to a channel, I love it when they have a variety of stuff.
Yes,
it's not just, I don't know, and not there's anything wrong with this, but not just readings or not just unboxings or flip throughs, but where there's a variety of things, I tend to gravitate towards them. I find them really interesting.
Yeah, a lot of times what I'll do too is I'll put a timestamp. You know what I mean? Like, because not everybody's into the same stuff. So, and I have a lot of decks, and if I were to try and do a walkthrough for every single deck, I mean, it's just very hard for me to do because I just buy so many of them. So what I tend to do is like catch up and just be like, well, this is the kind of kick I was on. I was on an RWS kick last week. You know what I mean? So I showed all my RWS decks. I showed the Crystal Skull, which our friend Jesse created. I showed it like an old classic. I showed the White Tarot. The old classic was the RWS by Los Garabeo. Just a few different, just to show people what's out there. But they can always jump forward to another deck. Because so many people do that anyway. You know what I mean? When they're watching videos, a lot of times they may not have time to watch the entire video, so they might just skip ahead to what they want to see. So I figure if I put multiple decks on there, I'm doing a service for people because I'm reaching more people. Someone might watch my video that wouldn't otherwise watch it because there's one deck that they're interested in, and they'll just skip ahead to that or whatever if they don't want to hear me talk. But a lot of times people do watch the whole interview too, and I love that as well. I also love interacting with people. I try to respond to everyone. And most recently, I've been doing a lot of lives with Chris Kelly, and I've had him on my channel. So that type of thing also is a lot of fun, doing readings and practicing readings live, which was very challenging at first for me. But it's a great way to get experience and practice and sort of put yourself out there for other people to look at, how you're learning, things like that. So.
And is that something that you want to develop in terms of becoming a more of a professional tarot reader? Is that something that you've got sight on?
I'd love to do something with tarot as a profession, but the way I look at it is if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. I don't really have like a monetary goal in mind. I think it's more or less about learning for me. And, I'm of course open to different possibilities and see where the roads will lead me. For the most part, I just really think about just like learning about stuff I want to learn, and share, you know what I mean? It's like I stopped caring a long time ago about how many likes, how many subscribers. I just kind of put out the content I want to put out. You know what I mean? And if people resonate with it, then they do. If they don't, then they can maybe catch my next video or watch someone else that they relate with. You know what I mean? It's like, for me, I feel like that's the only way you could really be successful on YouTube anyway. I don't.
Yeah, it's really interesting because there does come a point where your subscriber count or your likes and dislikes become less important to you, but more important to other people. So, I always celebrate landmark numbers. If I get, like when I got 10,000, I made a big thing. I did a giveaway, and what was Conrad Stain, the deck that he contributed as well, which had a 10,000 hermit card in it. So I made a thing of it, but I don't sit looking at, I've lost some, what I'm going to really worry about this. but other people start to comment and they start to talk about, oh, big channels or small channels, and they kind of put like a them and us thing in place,
Yes.
and nobody wants that. I don't want that.
Well, that's the human way. That's what you can call a dominance hierarchy. You know what I mean? Where we just sort of evolve into groups where it's a very strange thing that human beings do, but it's in our nature, unfortunately, where it's like you have the alpha dogs up top and they like to protect themselves, and it's just a survival instinct, I think, that is just in our DNA.
Yeah, but it's really bizarre because when I was starting out, I wanted to get to 100 subscribers and 500, and then I've never monetized my channel, so getting to 1,000 was great, but makes no difference.
Right.
I don't. For me, I just do what I do because I enjoy it. But it's interesting how other people then perceive you, and most of it's down to longevity. There's some channels that have been around a year, and they've got a certain number count. But I'm going into my 4th year of doing this. Do you know what I mean? And it's just longevity, and I don't think a single week has gone by where I haven't put something out. So it's a constant labor of love. Do you know what I mean? And that's what gets, I think,
Definitely. No, I see that about you as well. You are. I feel like you're doing what you would be doing anyway. You're just doing it on camera. You know what I mean? It's like you're into deck. You love ordering decks. You love talking about tarot, and it's just a very natural thing. So, and I never got the impression from you that you were sort of about clicks or and of course you're not monetized and so forth. So, not that there's anything wrong with that. I mean, if you want to. If people do that, I don't know if it's for me, you know what I mean? But of course, if you monetize your channel, and you want to go that route, more power to you. I don't plan on monetizing ever. I think this is more or less just a hobby for me.
Yeah.
But you never know. If I was to get 5 million subscribers, which will never happen, but I might monetize at that point. Buy the Ferrari,
Yeah.
For me, like I said, it's just about having fun and sharing, and getting to know people, connecting with people. So
Exactly, and it's
other people have to say about certain things too. Getting feedback on decks and things.
yeah, exactly. For me, it's also, of course, as you like we said, there's nothing wrong with monetizing, and I support channels that monetize. That's great, and that's their income a lot of the times. And I'm all about people, trying to make an honest living in life. So I just want to make that clear. There's no judgment at all. It's just that I'm blessed because I've got a good paid job, and I've got a small tarot business, but I don't even use my channel to promote that. I never say, if you want a reading from me, contact. I get by and I enjoy doing what I'm doing, but my channel is more, like you said, it's just about fun and interaction and talking about my love of tarot, so with like-minded people.
I think people love authenticity as well, and they see that authenticity about you, and that's why you have so much support, because that authenticity about tarot and just being genuine and doing what you want to do is a very attractive thing for people.
Yeah. I just wanted to say as well, Jackie said how much she loved your outdoor kind of videos where you do walkthroughs outdoor. And you did one a couple of days ago that's still on my watch later list. And I think that might be the one we were talking about, Jesse's Crystal Skull Tarot and stuff. So I've still got that to watch. But they are lovely. Not many people do that either, but they've got a different vibe.
I love that. First off, I'm a very, very outdoor person. I always in the woods or by the water, and so I figured, actually, I have a little TikTok channel. Now, this isn't like a plug here, but it's a very small TikTok channel. I sometimes have fun, but the name of my TikTok channel is Tarot Outdoors, because, it's just like, but I don't really do much on, sorry about that. I don't really do much outdoors on the TikTok channel, but I do that more on YouTube. So maybe I should change it. But yeah, I just love being outdoors, and it's definitely a vibe. There's some really beautiful places to go, and talk about scenery. So what I liked about my last video was the leaves falling. You can see the leaves falling. It's a very full, got a very full vibe to it. So I'm
Yeah.
just there in the park and everything's covered in leaves, and you can just see leaves falling out in the back. And I actually rewatched it. I was like, this is pretty relaxing to watch because it's it's just nature. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Absolutely. No, they're really lovely, and it's something different as well. Because we all look at people's backdrops. People watching this will look at my backdrop, your backdrop. But when you've got nature and a park and trees and everything else as your backdrop, it's really nice. So
Definitely agree about that.
yeah. So you mentioned that you've interviewed some. I think you call them tarot legends. Is that right? Or tarot?
Well, it's funny. I hope that doesn't come off like a little kind of pretentious, but I was really focused on interviewing like tarot teachers, you know what I mean? People who are sort of illustrious members of the community, but it's not like, they have to be like superstars or anything. Like I'll talk to anybody. It's just, if I'm interested in their work, I'm interested in interviewing them. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like Vincent Petici, who's not on the level of Rachel Pollack, but he's somebody I followed his work and he was influential. So and I felt like I had a connection with him as well as Rachel. And I just wanted to have a conversation with him. I thought that, wow, what a great thing, be able to have a conversation with someone like that.
Your interview with Rachel Pollack was fantastic. It really, really was fantastic. And I knew you was quite understandably quite nervous about doing that because Rachel, in my mind, is a heroine. She is a titan of tarot. First book I ever read on the tarot was 78 Degrees of Wisdom. But how do you even prepare for something like that? How did you prepare?
Well, so for Rachel, I've followed her work for a pretty long time. Like one of my first books, one of my first serious books about the tarot was 78 Degrees of Wisdom. But I also enjoyed her deck. I read some of her other books, about tarot and so forth. Forest of Souls being one of them. There's so many books that she has, and I just really loved her approach. So, and it was just very easy for me to interview her because she's somebody I was already familiar with. But she's also very friendly, and she made it very easy because she's such a genuine, nice person. So I think that was just sort of magic sort of happened on its own, very.
Yeah.
I didn't really put too much thought into it. I just sort of was just like, just be yourself and ask her questions that you would, that you want to know about. Because chances are what I want to know about is what other people want to know about. And that's why I actually even got some of my friends to come up with questions to see where everybody else was as far as, because what a rare opportunity to have somebody like Rachel Pollack to be able to ask her questions for an hour, So I wanted to use that time pretty wisely,
Yeah. Yeah. And there's some lovely comments from people in the chat, just agreeing about and attesting to how nice and approachable Rachel is. So you said you've got an interview coming up with Robert M. Place.
Yes.
What's the date of that again? November
10th. As far as right now, it's November 10th. That could change because it was originally November 3rd, but then we both realized it was election day. So we were like, oh, well, we better, he was like, let's do it the next week. So, so he's on the schedule for November 10th. So that means, either that evening or the following day, November 11th will be the interview will be released. So.
Yeah. So you pre-record your interviews. So do you do them as premieres or?
I should do it as a premiere, but I've only done pre-recording because I have to work out all the technical stuff. Plus, I feel like with someone like Robert or Rachel, I feel like it makes them a little more comfortable if it's pre-recorded. You know what I mean? It's like it's not as it's just a little more comfortable, I think. So I do it more as a courtesy for them, I think. But in the future, I'm not ruling out live interviews. In fact, I'd like to do those. I just think with certain people, and I would feel terrible because I don't have the mods worked out and things like I'm still getting all the technical stuff worked out with my channel as far as the interviews are concerned. So at some point I may do live interviews if it's okay with the person I'm interviewing.
Yeah. So who else is on your wish list? Who else would you really love to interview after Robert M. Plays?
That's top secret, Simon. No, I'm just kidding. Paul Houston is one person I wanted to have a conversation with. I've reached out to him. Let's see, Mary Greer, I'd like to talk to.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, these are all tarot legends, and I don't expect them all to be interested in having a conversation with me. But like you said, a wish list. But there's some other people too. Some other channel like YouTube creators and things that I have plans to ask as well. So
yeah, brilliant. Well, watch this space for who comes up next. Okay, so let's go back then. So what was life like growing up for you, Justin? You have spoken about in the past about, I believe you identify as being Christian.
Yeah.
Did you have a Christian upbringing? And what was your community around you like during your formative years?
Sure. For me, I had a very pleasant childhood as far as religion was concerned. It was a very Catholic upbringing. So I grew up in a little neighborhood in South Philadelphia. And it was really broken up. My neighborhood in South Philly was really broken up into like very ethnic kind of areas where, the Italians lived in one neighborhood, the Irish lived in another neighborhood, the Germans lived in another neighborhood, and each parish was broken up that way. So you'd have like the Irish parish was St. Gabriel's, the Italian parish was King of Peace, and the German parish was St. Aloysius. But of course, that was from another era. And so being, born in 1982, I think I caught the tail end of like another sort of era where, the church did have a lot of influence at that point in my life as a kid. And not all of it was pleasant, but most of it was. I mean, it was a way for me to grow up personally. I do know that there are some people who, especially, members of the LGBTQ community, they've had bad experiences, but I've been very lucky and I realize that not everybody is lucky. But I've had really good priests and nuns and brothers in my life as a young person who were really just kind of forward-thinking people who were just really, a lot smarter than what you would think the stereotype would be,
Mm-hmm.
But in the same sense, it wasn't all good. And I'm not like a hardcore Catholic. I tend to, I think I'm pretty much in an evolutionary period right now, as far as that. I think I'm Christian in the sense that, anybody born in the West is really Christian. If you think about it, I mean, just our way of thinking is very Christian. And if you go and live in like, Islamabad or somewhere else where it's a different culture, you will realize how, how Christian you actually are. And I think that, Jung talks about that, and also I can't remember his name right now. What's his name? He's a Eastern philosophy guy, Buddhist.
Oh, sorry.
Alan Watts.
Oh, Alan Watts.
Alan Watts talk about that. How he didn't realize how Christian he was until he, was among Eastern kind of culture. So in that sense, I am, and I'm Christian in that sense, but I think that, there are pros and cons to everything, but I'm also a very forward-thinking kind of person. So I have my differences with organized religion as well. And of course I'm into tarot, and it's very hard to fit me into a box, honestly.
Mm.
As far as faith is concerned, I'm not like, I don't go to church every Sunday. I rarely go to church anymore, actually, because one of my friends who was a priest who I used to go and see, he passed away last year. So I haven't really been back since then. So,
yeah.
But,
It's interesting what you're saying, because I've never really thought of it like that. But you're right. The church, the Christian influence, whether we accept it or not, and particularly in the UK, our laws are based on Christian laws. We have bishops that sit in the House of Lords, and they're the lawmakers of the land. So, and we have Sunday trading hours, which are based on Christian ethics and things. So it's very much part of the West.
Yeah.
as you say. So, and I take what you're saying about how you don't fit into a box, but in this community, we talk a lot about altars and spiritual places or spaces in our home, or where we have a sacred space. Do you have anything like that that's
Yes.
influenced by your Catholicism?
No, it's actually has nothing to do with Catholicism, but this is my sacred space right here. So I have the north wall, the south wall, west or east and west. So it's like when I do meditations and so forth, I place myself in the center. I've actually got a compass one day to sort of mark all the like exact north and south, and so I try to center myself in that regard. And it's just this room really is a sacred space. But for me, I think sacred space is more of a mentality. It's more of where I'm feeling comfortable. So my sacred space is often outdoors too. You know,
Yeah.
I connect with nature. Um, but no, I don't have an altar or anything like that. I do have places where I pray, and this is, I would say, in this house where I'm sitting right now is my sacred space,
Mm.
because this is where all my tarot stuff is. I have things that remind me of my childhood around. For instance, I'll show you this. It's one of the things I have, which I've had this since I was a small child. It's a seashell that my dad found when he was a child,
Put you on large.
and yeah, it's nothing fancy, but you can see how old it is. It's like fossilized, but it's such a beautiful shell.
It is
I've
beautiful.
had the shell since I was a kid. My dad had it since he was a kid, and when I was a kid, I used to put it to my ear, and I would listen for the ocean. As my dad would tell me, like, listen, you can hear the ocean in it.
Mm.
So it's a very special thing to me. So I keep it here because it kind of reminds me of, house. It's my special spot here.
And that's beautiful, because that's what our sacred spaces should be, filled with things that bring us joy or bring us peace,
Yes.
calm us and center us. But it's interesting because I only went to Catholic church for a year. My mum was wanting to marry a Catholic when I was 13. So we went, and I could still say Hail Mary and all that, but I do have rosary on my sacred space.
Yeah.
Just because I think it connects me with my childhood, and they're very tactile, and I like tactile things as well, particularly in prayer or meditation. But
I would, just to go back to your question, I would just say, I'm not like I consider myself Catholic in a sense, in that, probably my funeral will be in a Catholic church. If I had a child, I may baptize them or something. But but I also realize that there are some issues with the church, and I'm not like I'm very, very much a mystic, and I don't fit into like an Orthodox Christian kind of worldview, So I consider myself as like maybe a Christian mystic if I were to put it.
yeah, I like that. Yeah. So you mentioned, Justin, that you're a gay man, and you're in a relationship. Are you married? I seem.
Well, we have a funny, tricky situation, but we actually have power of attorney and wills. We worked that out before marriage equality was passed.
Right.
So we were still, we've been together 13 years, me and Stephen.
Mm.
So we had an arrangement that predates marriage equality, and we just haven't really got around to having it officially done. But he's my beneficiary to everything. He's all the little things that I have, and so forth, and vice versa. So we are as good as marriage, just not officially married as far as the state is concerned. Not yet.
That makes sense. So is your partner into tarot? Share your interest of spiritual tools like the tarot?
He likes what he'll ask me to do readings for him, and he does like some things. He actually likes oracle decks more. Like I've given him a few oracle decks, and he'll pull cards from those. But he's not really like into it like I am, obviously. But he is very interested in. The other day, Mendy, Masha, and Jade did their live reading, and he actually popped into the room because he was like, oh, he heard me like listening to their live, and he was like, oh, can I ask a question? Because he's really stressed out about work lately. He's got just a lot of stuff going on because he's working from home, and they're putting a lot of workload on him, and he's confused about certain aspects of his job that they're just kind of sort of putting him in. So he's been a bit stressed out, and so he asked a question about his job, and it like really helped him. I mean, he like really appreciated it. It was the same advice that I gave him, which was it's going to get easier. Is what the three of them actually said. Yeah, so he likes tarot. I think Stephen and I are very, very similar. He's also Catholic. He grew up the same way I did. We both went to Catholic schools. Stephen's very Italian, so his mother was like obsessed with Andrea Bocelli. He's got an Italian grandmother, she's still with us. I lost my grandparents when I was really young. My last grandmother died in 2005. So, it's nice to have grandparents again. It's really like nice, and so he grew up in a very similar fashion than I did. So I think that's why we work so well, about things very much the same way. And yeah, it just seems to really work. He's my best friend, and it's good to have somebody in life.
Absolutely. That sounds wonderful. And I just want to explore that a little bit, because you were talking about how you gave a reading for your partner, and it was almost like a forecast reading, so things will get better for you. But I know you're also very much into Carl Jung, so I wanted just to explore with you how you view the tarot. Do you see it as a tool that's like a mirror which reveals things about your own psyche, depending on what your life state is at that time, or your mind state and what you're seeing? Or do you see it as a tool for divination and for prediction, or somewhere in between the two?
I think that the tarot is, for me, it's very much all about sort of, it's a tool of high magic. I feel like it's all about self-improvement, spiritual growth, and things like that. That's the way I use it. I approach it from a very Jungian kind of, really revealing things about myself. There are psychological elements of that, but there are very mystical elements of it. And there are a lot of things like, so I mean, do I know that the tarot can predict things? No, I don't. I have a feeling they can in certain situations, like anything else can predict something. I feel like they just maybe tap into a certain type of energy that produces like synchronicities or, special kind of moments that happen. That's how I explain it. And that's very Jungian too, but yeah, I guess it's a complex question. And, it's like, for me, I have a feeling that I've just seen so many things in the cards. I've had moments where, not like what lottery number can you play or what this or that, but I feel like it taps into some kind of energy where, and this could all be explained psychologically and scientifically. You know what I mean? As can synchronicity. I mean, synchronicity doesn't have to mean it's like a woo kind of spiritual revelation. Like, it could be very much the way I see it, but it's very significant, it's meaningful. So I think for me it comes down to meaning. I think, like, if it's meaningful, then it's useful, and yeah. So, and I think in meaning there's a lot of very mystical kind of aspects to the word meaning, and what meaning is attached to, and the things we give meaning to, and of course attached to love and things like that. And so it's kind of like our sole purpose here is meaning. But as far as the symbolism and so forth, I mean, if you go back to the earliest moments in human history, you look in the caves, prehistoric civilizations, you're seeing symbols, and so symbols are a very big part of who we are as people. And it tells us a lot about who we were and who we still are, and also divination as well. Divination is something that's been done since the beginning of time, and I'm very much into that, So I'm very open-minded with the potential of tarot. I won't say whether, I don't view it as a magical tool. I view it very much like you said, like a mirror from day to day. But I feel like there have been really powerful moments with the tarot where I've had synchronicities and things, as well as other things that happened in my life that have sort of made me sort of see the potential there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And you know anyway from our discussions, but I'm of exactly the same mind, and if anybody looks at my website, I talk about the tarot as a mirror, and we can see things. That's why I love soul cards, Deborah Croft Chapin soul cards so much, because they reveal so much about our state of mind, our life state in those moments that we're looking at it. But I was talking to another friend just recently who was talking about quantum mechanics and the way they view tarot. And my mind was blown, as in everything is existing, whether it's past, present, or future. If someone's on a distant star looking back at us having this conversation now, but it's tens of thousands of light years away, by the time they're watching this, we've been dead for tens of thousands of years, but we're existing in that quantum, and how the tarot can tap into that. I was like, just give me this in little small pieces.
Yeah, there's just so much we don't know about consciousness itself, and
collective consciousness, exactly. Yeah,
one of the great mysteries, and how we view time. I mean, that's like one of the questions. That's like the question that philosophers have asked. So there's a lot we don't know, and I think that tarot is very mysterious. It's also, I believe, a product of the collective unconscious. I think emerged as very powerful. So it's like it doesn't really. It's like when I was talking to James from Young to Live By. He's not into tarot, and he's not really. He's very science minded. He's a depth psychologist. But he just said it doesn't really matter where tarot came from or whether it was the Egyptians or the Gypsies or the ancient Celts or whatever story that had been said for the tarot. They're sort of all true, because those archetypes are part of, who we were and who we are and who we continue to be. You know what I mean? They've been passed down and they've revealed themselves on a deck of cards. Funny, but
yeah, and that's why they look so familiar to us, because we've got that existing knowledge already, or that's how I view it. Yeah. So, you spoke earlier a bit about your upbringing and how you kind of found the tarot, put the tarot away, found it again. Did you say what your first deck was? And if not, what was your first deck? How would you say
my first deck was the Rider-Waite-Smith, the regular Rider-Waite-Smith, the yellow box.
Okay.
From the early 90s. And my stepfather was an artist. He was a cartoonist and what they call a caricaturist. I don't know if you have that in the UK, but they do caricatures for people. They do parties and events and so forth. Yeah. So when I was a kid, he was sort of just starting out, and he would set up his easel on South Street in Philly, which is very much the Greenwich Village type, Soho type place in Philadelphia. It was where all the cool people were and easy, especially when I was a kid. It was like that. But there was a store called what is it called? I still go into it. Something of Gardens, Garden of something. I can't think of it. But they had a big lion in the entrance of the store. And now when I walk past it, you can't help but to touch the lion, and it sort of reminds me of the strength card. But kid, I always did that, and I didn't realize I was mimicking the strength card sort of. But I would go past, and I would always pet the lion, which is sort of kind of cool symbol of the story, you know. But I would go in there, and I would always see they had probably the JJ Swiss and the Rider-Waite Smith, and I was attracted to the yellow box. I remember they had a deck of cards open that you could look at, and I remember kind of flipping through them and just feeling like I knew these images. You know what I mean? Like sort of very familiar to me, but not in like a psychic way or anything. Just like they were very familiar. Like there was something about them that was very mysterious and very familiar to me. Child. And so for 2 weeks, I begged my stepfather to buy me the deck. You know, he was my stepfather at the time. And so one day he brings it home, this deck of cards. So I had it. I played with it for a couple of weeks. You know, I brought it to school, my very Catholic school. And funny enough, it survived the nuns and the priests. Nobody took it there. But, you know, one of my friends came to me and said, you know, my mom and dad said, I can't hang with you unless you get rid of those cards. So I was like, oh, shit. Like, I loved them. I was having so much fun. And they were just, I thought they were magical and very, you know, I thought they were like a tool of magic, you know what I mean? And so I didn't want to lose my friend. So we walked together after school, and I threw them down a sewer well. And I just remember one of the things that always sticks in my mind is how good the cards felt when they were slipping out of the box. Like they felt, because they were so new and so like, you know, they were just, and I was like, wow, man, an early 90s Rider-Waite Smith.
Yeah, what you do now for that deck.
Out in the sewer, Simon. But that's okay. I bought it again. I have a copy. And I actually got my first blue box. It's Blushing Fool, but it's a blue box. And yesterday I was looking for them, and I was like, wow, this is like, I feel like I'm looking at the tarot for the first time. I mean, I can't really explain it, but the image, the quality of the images on that deck, it's like they're stamped on in a way, like sort of, it's really, really high quality, and I just didn't know what I was missing. And I thought it might have been hype a little bit, because I'm like, oh, a deck of cards is a deck of cards, but no, whatever that period was of the blue box, whenever they were doing it, it was really high quality product, I feel like.
Yeah, mine's 1971, and there's no sheen, it's paper, but the line work and the vividness of the colors, if you see some blue in the Page of Cups and the pink, it's just amazing.
Yeah. And
I'm always banging on about it, but and then every time somebody gets one, they then say, now I get it.
Yeah.
You know, you get it.
And that's what Brand said to me, because I was talking to Brand, and I was like, yeah, you know, I was telling him how much I loved the deck, and I was like, and I can't believe how superior the quality is. And he was just like, yeah, it's just something you have to experience, you know, to understand. And he's absolutely right about that, because, you know, I would have thought it was hype, or, you know, maybe a bit of nostalgia, you know what I mean? They're old, this is the deck I've always wanted kind of thing, but no, they are really high quality cards.
It breaks my heart, the bog standard Rider deck that's out there. I don't mean the US Games one, but I mean over here, if you go into a bookshop or WH Smith's and you ask for Rider Tarot, it's the Rider and Company one, but they're shocking. They're so blotchy and oversaturated, and
it's the only thing I don't understand about US Games. I guess they figure, you know, they have those other versions of it, you know, the Centennial and so forth, but you would think that they would be listening to all of our conversations on YouTube and sort of update it or change it. It'd be nice.
Yeah.
They figured it, you know, they have whatever worked out already, the printing in Italy and so forth. And no offense to them, but it's just, they can do a lot better, you know?
And I don't think they'll ever take their copyright off the front of the card anyway. And that's what, again, something.
I mean, they didn't take it off for that special edition that they just released, you know, the Centennial special edition in the green box, the Pamela Coleman Smith.
Oh, it's on its way to me, I believe. If Brandt's posted it, I bought it through him back in April, but then there was an issue with it, so there was recalled.
Yeah.
And I know he said a couple of weeks ago, oh, it's about to be released, so I'm expecting it any day. But I
Yeah.
didn't realize they've taken the copyright off the front.
No, they have. I said if they haven't done it for that, I don't.
Oh, right. Okay.
That's why I was like looking to see if they did, and because it would be nice if they did for a special edition, but they didn't, unfortunately.
Yeah.
That's just such was like. Do you have the 1909 deck by any chance by game? What was it, Game Crafter or one of those places? Drive Through Cards.
The one with the eyeball on the back.
This one here. If I have it.
I've got a 1909 deck. If I can find it somewhere hidden. It'll take me a while to find it now, but
That's okay. Well, I have it handy here. I can just show you which one I'm talking about. It's this one here, the 1909 by Game Crafter or by Drive Through Cards. It's actually pretty decent, Simon. It's a really cool deck of cards. I really liked it. The quality of the card stock is like a little kind of.
is this the Melissa show where she did the comparison with that and
Yes.
the study deck?
Yeah, I really liked it. I mean, it's very.
It's just buying from the States and shipping and customs. It just puts me off.
Has
But,
the roses and lilies back, but it's got a pleasant kind of yellow in the full, and I don't know, I like it, but I wish the cardstock was a little better, and I could see why somebody would want to pass on this, because
that's what Melissa said as well. The only fault was the cardstock, because I love this one. This is one that I just cannot put down. That's the study deck, which is the Tampa replica. I adore it. I love it so much.
There's definitely like a nice authentic quality to that,
Yeah. But I've got one. I've had it for about 3 years, and it's called the 1909 Revived, and it's pretty hideous.
Yeah.
On the back, it's this kind of space scene with like you get the constellations that look like an eyeball. It's got that on the back. It's really bizarre, but never use it. So you show both RWS and Marseille on your channel. Do you have a preferred system, would you say?
Well, I think it's sort of whatever mood I'm in. I would say I really love Marseille, but I really love Rider-Waite Smith. So I think that they're both very useful for me at certain times. And I sort of consider myself like almost like bilingual in a sense, or at least I'm trying to be, where I couldn't do without either, And I as of lately, I'm enjoying very much the historic Marseille decks, and I think there's more of a variety as far as learning and the different artists and so forth. And in that regard, there's only one Rider-Waite Smith. There's only one Pamela Coleman Smith deck. There's different variations and so forth, but so I think as far as buying decks lately, I've been very much more into Marseille as far as ordering decks, but I also can't do without the Rider-Waite Smith. So I would say they're pretty 50-50, maybe slight advantage to Rider-Waite Smith only because it's where I come from. You know what I mean? I've evolved on that too. You know what I mean? And I'm still evolving. So tomorrow I'll be a different answer. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think for me, it's my comfort deck. It's if ever I do a reading for somebody, it's always with an RWS, a traditional RWS. Whereas if I'm reading for myself, I can read Marseille or something quite that's of a genre like a vampire deck or something like that. But I don't know. I just feel when I give a professional reading, I feel more legit using RWS because I just feel so comfortable with it, and I get better results.
I totally get that. And it's like, well, Vincent Petici, for instance, he'll tell you, he reads the same with Rider that he does with Marseille. But I find that impossible because, Rider-Waite Smith, I feel like is very specific because of the images and sort of it's almost like an interpretation of something. Like if you trying to think of an example, like the Two of Swords or whatever, that's if you think of it, with she's blindfolded with the swords, and that sort of gives you sort of a feeling of whatever it is, like it's very specific interpretation. But if you're doing it with Marseille, and it of course depends on who you are and how you read, but for me, I feel like there's sort of a liberty in interpreting in Marseille that doesn't exist in Rider-Waite-Smith. I think ultimately you do get there with RWS. Like, you may get past that sort of influence that the image has. You may, like I said, read that more broadly in the different sort of like the different sort of context that the meaning could have. You know what I mean? Like it could apply so many different directions. But I feel like but for me that can be useful. And so when I go to do a reading, sometimes it's just very intuitive thing. Like I want to use a rider deck for this because I feel like it may give me a more specific kind of answer, whereas which is very good for certain things. And then, in other cases, I may use the and I want to be a little more intuitive and, freewheeling with my,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
And what about Thoth? Have you gone there yet?
Well, I just started getting interested in Thoth, although it's on pause now because I have, I'm studying the Robert M. Place decks at the moment. But I was reading Alexandria Genetti's book, The Wheel of Change Tarot.
Okay.
And it talks quite a bit about Thoth, and I was just sort of thinking about it in a different light. And then I was talking to James Feeney a while back, and I was telling James, because James loves the Thoth deck. It's his, and I was like, so I'm thinking about getting a Thoth. I used to have one. I had a miniature Thoth, and I sold it or traded it or something. Got rid of it because I just didn't care for it. But he mentioned to get the bigger deck because in the green box with the image is really big, so you could see the art. And once I did that, I saw the art sort of in a different light. The deck is a much more attractive deck as a big deck. You know what I mean? So you could see the images and see because it's very detailed, kind of busy art. You know what I mean? So for me, that's how it happened. So I would say I'm interested in Thoth. I haven't really got into the studying parts of it, but reading a bit here and there. And then a friend of mine just gifted me the new Error Elements.
Oh yeah, great deck.
So that's pretty cool too. So yeah, I'm interested in him now where before I really wasn't. I think. I think. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's fine. There's so many decks out there that are Thoth inspired, like there are RWS inspired. I think of decks I love, like the Gil Tarot or the Urban Tarot. And these are Thoth decks. But I think it's interesting when you said about Vincent saying that how he reads the card, because I do that because of my knowledge around RWS. If I'm reading the Gil Tarot, I know virtually nothing about Thoth and the system of Thoth, but I'll read it as an RWS. Yeah. But I also bring in some of the numerology that I'd use with a PIP card, for being stability, etc., and the disruption of 5. But yeah, I think we tend to we do it to ourselves, tend to put ourselves into pigeonholes, don't we? Of I'm a RWS reader, or I'm a Thoth reader, or Marseille, and this system is better because. Yeah. And actually, it's all divination. It's all cards. It's all images. It's using our intuition. It's using whatever knowledge that we've learned, and recognizing the archetypes and reading. So I think we ought to just kind of not get too hung up on.
Before, I was more or less turned off by Crowley, the sort of the reputation that Crowley had, and I saw him as sort of a dark figure, but I think I got past that because I feel like a lot of that was maybe, first off, he lived in a different time, but also, was maybe a little, what are they called? Like, public theater. You know what I mean? Like maybe like he might have been one of the original Shock type people. You know what I mean? Where, but I don't think you have to really like Crowley to like his deck. You know what I mean? Or appreciate the what he did with the deck. So, as I said, it's just something I'm just getting into. But if you think about it, like somebody's been tarot for 30 or 40 years, somebody like Rachel, or somebody's been studying. And you think about all the different decks they've studied over the past, and worked with, and you built up that vault of knowledge. I think that really you become a seasoned reader when you've taken all these different decks. So I feel like if I was, and this is just me personally, and of course I'm not saying this judgmentally, but I feel like I would, if I didn't at least experiment with other decks, I wouldn't know what I was missing, and I would learn a little differently, maybe more.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you talked about the artwork and particularly about the Flothao having cards bigger. You see artwork. Artwork is really important, isn't it? Because that's what ignites our intuition. Are there any particular cards that you look out for when you're deciding to buy a deck? Do you have to get the moon card right in your eyes or anything like that?
Oh, the moon when you said it. I think the Hangman is one of my favorite cards in the deck. I love the Hangman. I like the different versions of the Hangman. I would say as far as a personal card, that would be it. But I think for different decks, it's different. It depends on. I try to look at the overall picture and see. But I tend to look at the moon card. I like Temperance. I like looking at the Temperance card. I look at whether Justice is 8 or 11. Yeah. And it doesn't matter. Like I won't not buy a deck because they have Justice at 11 or Strength at 11 or whatever. But it's just something I look for, like to see where the creator's head was when they put the deck together.
Yeah, there was a deck. It's gone right out of my head as well. I did a walkthrough a few days ago where they gave duplicate cards for each of the Strength and the Justice cards, and they've got Strength 8, Strength 11, Justice 11, Justice 8. So you just take out the two that, and I thought, what a clever but simple thing to do. Yeah. So, but I don't mind that so much, but I do mind when things get switched. The elements get switched, or sometimes they'll call something, I don't know, instead of a wand, it'll be something really obscure, and I'm like, can't work. I can't relate that to a wand. But other than that, I'm pretty fine.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, what's the top of your wish list, really? So we'll start with that, but I'm also interested in your collection. What does your collection look like?
Well, my collection is, move out of the way for you. This isn't my entire collection. This is just mostly my, these are my small decks. And so these are my Marseilles up here, and I have quite a few Marseilles on the way, actually. I ordered 4 more from Yves Renal, so historic decks. I've ordered a Pablo Robledo so I'm waiting for that from South America. I actually ordered 2 decks from Pablo. So yeah, these are all, both Harry editions. I have the Dahl, of course, and Noblet. These are all, the Viville back there. And then this is also sort of Tarot de Marseille here, but I also have some other quirky decks mixed in, like Tarot Balbi, and I had to make space because I have a lot more Marseille decks that are going to enter my collection. I know, so I'm going to sort of move them around. So this is a working shelf. I don't know if you can see down here, and down here I have
Just Place.
Yeah, Robert M. Place, and then I have my blue box here. I have Rachel's deck. I have Jesse's deck here, and Stephen Bright, who's also a pretty good friend of mine. So it's like the Philly Tarot. So I figure just it's sort of like a mix between Rider Waite style decks and various others. And then down here I have sort of unique and different decks. Although I would think that the medieval. Can you see that? No, you can't.
No, we're at the Robert Emperor. Ah, that's it.
Yeah, so I have like the medieval Europe, the Wheel of Change, I have the Guild Tarot, I have all the Picard, like the Utes Picard, Tarot of the Holy Lights. This is the Nap Hall. This is the Zoltan deck, which I've never really worked with, but I think is very beautiful. It's a Mayan deck, you know. So yeah, and then I have a whole big bookshelf on the other side with the big decks, the book kits and all. So, and then I have some in a bin as well, that of decks that are, I guess they call it the purgatory bin or whatever. But so yeah, that's my current collection. I'm waiting for the Il Menighello I have. This is the Vachetta deck. This is the Napoleon deck, and then this is the Neoclassico. But I'm waiting for the Le Corte Day something or other, that beautiful long stuff.
Oh, the report, yeah.
Yeah, Le Corte Day or whatever. And then, but on my wish list right now, probably my most, if it's okay to talk about that, is it okay if I segue into that?
Yeah, because that was the question. I was like, oh, I want to know what's top of your wish list, but well, let's have a look at his collection first. So, absolutely.
Well, so it's just like the deck that I really, really want is a Cartogram deck right now. I'm looking at, and they're very, very expensive. Cartogram is, it's very sort of, well, it's on the newer side, at least new to me, but everything's handmade and it's very, very expensive.
Hasn't Marsha just shown one of their decks?
Mendy both got one, yeah.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean.
They're very pretty, but they're very, very beautiful. I'm actually thinking about the Oswald Wirth because they have a couple of videos on YouTube. I will send them to you, but they are just stunning. And the Oswald Wirth that they have, it's just a majors only, but it's beautiful. Everything is hand done, from the the gold stamping to all the details and everything, and the paper's handmade. It's just such high quality. So unfortunately, I'm not a rich person, so I can't like buy all the decks that I want from them. But I'm thinking I can maybe swing the Oswald Wirth, if I just tighten my belt a little bit. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I've been thinking about it though, because I may get another. I just don't know which one I want yet.
Yeah. And is the Oswald Wirth a majors only?
Yes, it is a majors only, unfortunately. But that's because Oswald Wirth only really read with majors. You know what I mean? So it's funny to see like the U.S. Games deck, which I just got yesterday. Funny. I found like a vintage copy from the 70s or something, but it didn't have a box or anything. I got it for $7. But it's funny to see the full deck, because it's like, it's really not the Oswald Wirth deck, because he didn't read with minors. In fact, I think he said something like, it's not enough for the serious reader, quote unquote, to read pips at that time. And then, of course, down the road, you had, Utes Picard developed the minor system, and then you had Waite and people like that. So
yeah, I thought I could put my hand on them, but I don't know if you've ever seen the cards by My Lucky Card.
Oh yeah,
Dirty Pam, or not the vintage Pam, sorry, and all those. Well, Real from My Lucky Card is working on, because she brought out the majors only Oswald Wirth. And she's got two versions out, one that's quite crisp and clear, and the other one which is kind of stained, old looking. But she's now trying to create a more traditional style pips to go with them.
I would love that.
That should be coming out, I think, next year. I think it's been halted.
See, I love pips, so I can understand there are some people that don't read with pips, but I'm not one of them. And it would be nice to get both the majors of Oswald Wirth and the pips. You know what I mean? Because it's not hard to throw 56 pip cards in there. You know what I mean? And I would appreciate that. You know what I mean? As a pip reader. So I could certainly see why that would be an attractive project for someone to do. I'm not familiar with her deck though. I did see you. I did see you show it and it looked beautiful, and I love her other decks really. You know,
And the card quality is so nice with her decks. They just feel so just really nice and waxy, and they've got a really good core. I really love her decks, so I'm hoping it'll be out soon.
I've been looking actually at some decks on that page pretty recently, and of course I'm trying to tighten my belt, so I'm not buying any immediately until I get this cartogram deck. But that's good to know, the card quality. You know that about that. I don't have any of her decks right now. I would have liked the Dirty Pam, and there was another one that you showed too, which
that's this one, which was the Pam's Delight.
Oh, yeah, I actually like that. They only made a couple of copies of that though, from what I understand.
Yeah, this is 2020. It was this year, but these are the vintage. There's the vintage work.
Oh, that's
which is a majors only, and then there's the where it was called by its original title, Arcans du Tarot Kabbalistique.
Okay, is that available now? Both of those, or
these are available, and then she's doing the full set with minors.
Well, I will definitely get the full set, but I may get one of those. I didn't see the white box. I saw the other one, but the white box looks fairly new.
That came out last year, 2019.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And they're really beautiful. These are the backs, which I actually prefer these backs going on the vintage version, because the vintage version has quite a modern back.
Yeah.
But the cardstock is great, and I just thought and these were really crisp. But they've got the vintage backs. I was like, oh, put that onto these, and you're onto a winner.
Yeah. So, yeah, it looks like wallpaper. The other one, you know, like an old
or wrapping paper. Like. Yeah. Okay. So, do you, just before we wrap up, because we've been on for an hour and a quarter already, but
oh, really?
Yeah, time flies. Do you use any of the spiritual tools that you might say combine with readings? Whether that's combined, do you use clarifier cards with Oracle, or do you use Lenormand? Do you have dowsing pendulums or anything to clarify readings?
I do a bit with Oracle. I think I will do a clarifier, and I'll use an Oracle deck. Sometimes I'll go on kicks with them. But one of my favorites is the Archetypes deck by Kim Kranz. I love that one. I think that's probably her most well done deck of all the decks that she's created, and it's one I use frequently. I just think it's beautiful, and it's really a great deck. I also I have an astrology oracle. I have a numerology oracle. Sometimes, yeah, you need a little extra something, a little advice, particularly if I'm reading for other people. I will use that. As far as magic objects, not really. I think I'm kind of interested in that, but you know, it's like I don't really use them. I have a magic wand that I made myself from Ashwood.
And some OM staves. You was making OM staves as well, weren't you?
Yeah, I have right here, I think.
So that's something that you're almost there with? I think you was going to try and get every tree represented at one time, was it?
Yeah, I was trying to do that, but I was like, I'm going to have to fly to like the UK to find the ones that I'm missing. But yeah, these are like just the little ones I've created.
Wow, they're really good.
Yeah, I don't know what type of wood it is, but it's actually like a burgundy color. I don't know if you can see, but it's got like a dark red kind of look to it.
If Sandra was here, if she wanted to work, she'd be typing where she knows all of her trees.
Oh, really? That's yeah, I should ask her. I don't know. It's funny, but it also has a nice sound too. Like,
yeah, I love the sound of staves.
Yeah, they're somewhat hollow, so
yeah. Tanja always asks this question. She wants to know if you could be any mythical creature, which one and why?
A mythical creature. Something I've never really thought of, but
I think anybody who comes on to be interviewed should get ready for that question, because
I don't know. I mean, I think I would like to be able to fly. Maybe Hermes. He's a mythical creature, kind of. He's a god, but somebody that can fly and move around fast. Maybe a unicorn.
Yeah. Oh, Pegasus. Pegasus fly.
Yeah, I'll have to really think about that, but I think that would probably be up there. So something that flies for sure.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, a couple of deeper questions then.
Sure.
So, what would you say the tarot has taught you most about yourself?
Well, that's interesting because this last 6 or so months have been really, really sort of profound for me because I started sort of experiencing the cards a little bit. Like it started with the magician actually, where I felt like sort of just I felt one day that I just had like some magician energy, and I ended up transforming my entire life, including losing like 50 plus pounds, and just really got my stuff together in a lot of ways. So I felt like there was sort of power in that idea of being able to kind of harness like the power to do things is within you, and it's a transformative power. I think that exists. That tarot has sort of helped me learn, just by putting it out there for me. I think, but it's hard to explain it, but I really felt like I just had magician energy, and I could do anything for like about 3 months. I don't know what maybe my astrological chart at that time was. Something was aligned perfectly, but I just really got my life together as far as my health, especially. And I started lifting weights and going to the gym, and I just transformed myself. And I remember being out on a walk during quarantine. This all happened, and I was out on a walk, and I remember like looking up at the sky and reaching up at the sky and saying, like, thinking to myself, like, "Wow, I'm like tapping into like divine energy here."
Wow.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I think I even wrote on social media somewhere that about the magician at that time. It was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Cool.
there's different things that it's taught me.
So, dinner party, 3 guests, dead or alive. Who would be your ultimate guest? And then you can have another 2.
Probably John Lennon, I think, would be
Choice.
dead or alive. Let's see. They'd probably all be musicians because I'm a musician and I think I would have more in common with them. Maybe John Lennon, Frank Sinatra, and Elvis, or something like that. I don't know.
Oh, wow.
That would be a hell of a table. I don't know. A historical figure, Benjamin Franklin.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
So maybe swap out Elvis for Ben Franklin.
Controversial. Swapping Elvis out.
I know.
I'd probably swap Elvis out for Freddie Mercury. I
Yeah.
think Freddie Mercury would be pretty cool as a dinner guest.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think Billy Preston up there too is one of my heroes, a keyboard player named Billy Preston. I really idolize him.
Yeah.
So maybe Old Blue Eyes might.
Following Elvis out the door.
Elvis and Sinatra got to go.
Yeah. So just before we do Paper Plastic, any plans for your channel? Do you have a direction you want to take it in? Or are you just having fun doing what you're doing in your first year? Or
yeah, I think
fun things coming up.
I think I'd like to do more interview type situations. I'd like to explore topics, but not just having conversations with people, but kind of maybe learning as I go. Researching the material. Like for instance, I'm reading Robert's book now and preparing for the interview. It's like my focus. So I'm also learning through him, but I'm also anticipating the interview. So it could be like a learning experience for me, but also maybe be helpful for someone else who's reading his stuff, and maybe help them by asking them questions or talking about certain
Cool.
more of that.
play paper or plastic?
Sure.
So have you seen this? Do you know how it works?
You got to refresh my memory because I'm
Okay. So it's either. So I'll give you two things, and you just say the first thing that comes into your head. Just reveals a little bit more about you. Some are time related, some are just general life.
If I just say paper or plastic.
So if I say paper, plastic, you will say which you prefer. So you'll say paper,
Okay.
plastic. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So paper or plastic?
Paper.
Oracle or tarot?
Tarot.
YouTube or Instagram?
YouTube.
Peanut butter or jelly?
Probably peanut butter.
Big parties or small gatherings?
I like a big party sometimes. Yeah.
Wait or Crowley?
Wait.
Bath or shower?
Shower.
Bordered or borderless?
Probably borderless.
Dark and creepy or rainbows and unicorns?
Rainbows and unicorns, I think.
Indie or mass market?
I like indie, quality wise, especially.
Tablet or PC?
Oh, that's a tough one. I like the PC, but if you consider phone a tablet, then I would say tablet.
Okay.
So
Save or spend?
spend.
Money or free time?
Free time.
Phone call or video call?
Video call.
Movies at home or in the cinema?
Probably at home, I think. Movies at home.
Large cards or small cards?
I like them big, but not too big, but I like them larger. Yeah.
Life after death or total extinction?
Definitely life after death.
Early bird or night owl? I know this one.
Oh, night owl for sure.
You'll message me like when I'm arriving at work at 8 in the morning. I'm thinking it's 3 a.m. where you are.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. It's in my DNA for sure.
Woodland forest or sandy beaches?
That's a tough question. Woodland forest probably, especially
Especially what?
especially this time of year.
Yeah.
This-
Yeah, colours are beautiful, aren't they?
But that's probably a 50-50 one for me.
Yeah.
Can't do
And
it.
then the last one is toilet roll hanging over or under?
Probably under, but it really doesn't. I don't feel strongly about it, but probably under. I don't know.
Yes. Doesn't happen very often, but when it's music to my ears. Okay, so thank you so much. What I normally do to end is I'm gonna pull a deck and leave with a card reading. Whilst I'm shuffling the deck, do you want to talk about and show a few cards from a current favorite of yours? Do you have one to hand?
Yeah. Let's see.
We were talking so much before we went live, I forgot to ask you this to get one ready. And do you know what? I'm going to pull a card from the Philly Tarot in honor of you.
Cool.
So you need to find it.
Well, I mean, I just got this yesterday, but it's the blue box, but it is not a blushing fool, but the quality is just, it's stunning. And I'm told that the feel of the cards and the quality of the image are pretty much the same, but I'm just really enjoying this. I mean, I sat and stared at them for like 20 minutes yesterday, just over here, just looking at the images. But they just look so great to me. And I feel like I've just sort of seen these cards for the first time almost. You've all seen them, but I don't know. It's just the colors, the line work. It almost looks like it was, I don't know what they've done differently then that they don't do now, but I don't know if you can see the quality, but the images are just, the colors are just so like nice. The line work's great. It's almost like the images are stamped on them. You know what I mean? Like they're slightly raised. Like I don't know what kind of ink they used, but it's just
Perfect. Perfection.
very different than. And of course, this is a deck everybody's familiar with, but it is definitely my current favorite. Love the Lovers.
Melissa said, send us details of your blue box and she'll let you know about data.
Oh, I will. I will. Thank you, Melissa. That's one of my favorites. I actually just got. I didn't open it yet. I have it sitting here, but I have the Hush Tarot.
Oh,
I've never got this before, and it was something that I just wasn't really interested in, or so I thought until Nancy Texas Rose was showing it on her channel, and I sort of was like, it's a really beautiful deck. I don't know why I don't have it. And I decided to get it based on just seeing it there. So, but I haven't opened them yet, so I'll probably do that this afternoon.
Yeah. All right. So this deck, this is the Philly Tarot, which Justin sent to me over a year ago now. The cardstock on this deck is phenomenal. It's the same cardstock as the Choice Tarot de Marseille. It is so really sublime. So a message for us for the week ahead. Oh, we have the Two of Swords. Oh, these are feathers? No, quills, aren't they, in the Philly Tarot?
Exactly.
Talk about the Two of Swords.
We did. I mentioned the Two of Swords. That was the card that popped into my head. Yeah.
Wow. Well, there you are.
Yeah, these weird. That's a fight right there.
Yeah, and I love this. So what's the bridge in the background?
That's the Benjamin Franklin Bridge. So
Benjamin Franklin Bridge.
Going to New Jersey. Well, there's more than two, but two in there's one in South Philly and one in Center City. The one in South Philly is the Walt Whitman Bridge. It's green. They look identical except they're different colors. And the one uptown is the Benjamin Franklin. That's the
and it looks like a police officer or something with the radios and stuff. But
yeah, they're like street agents, like in other words, for tourists. We have a lot of tourism in the summer, so like if you need directions or like recommendations, it's basically like a walking concierge. They do, but they also clean up the city. They do a lot of stuff.
Cool.
So, yeah.
So the message from the Two of Swords and the Two of Quills, as it is in this deck, is there's potentially something that you're not seeing this week that's going to present itself to you. It's almost like being blinded by a certain truth. And you may find yourself that it's time to face up to some facts that you might have deliberately been putting that blindfold in place for. Something that might be a little bit difficult to face, something that you've avoided doing, but the time has come that actually you need to stare hard in the face of the truth that's in front of you, face the facts, remove the barriers that you've put across yourself as well. And it's about making certain choices. Whenever I see the Two of Swords, it's about choices that have to be made, but they don't always have to be as difficult as we think they're going to be. Yes. We fear things, F-E-A-R, false experiences appearing real. We overthink things and the future's not given, so a lot of the times those fears are based on our previous experiences and how things have turned out. So we think they're going to turn out that way again. So don't be blinded by the truth, be open, make choices, but most of all, face the facts, face them head on. Don't be fearsome of them. Things are going to play out and you just need to make sure that you're as equipped as you can be. The sword is all about the mind and the intellect as well. So don't overthink things. Justin, thank you so much for coming on today. Really loved it. It's been great having a chat with you. The hour and a half has flown by. But anything you want to say before before we end?
Oh, that's it. I just want to say thank you. Thank you, Simon, and thanks everybody for tuning in. And I hope you enjoyed it. And we'll talk again soon.
Yeah, we had a lovely turnout. So thank you everybody for being here and supporting. Do check out Justin Michael, the channel. If you go to the description below, you'll see a link to his channel. Give him a sub. It's got some great content, some great texts, and as you can see, it's an absolute pleasure and a joy to listen to. So thanks everybody. Next weekend will be a normal cup of catch up and cards. And then in 2 weeks' time, I'll be joined by Chris from Elemental Cartomancy, who's coming on. I've got a few more booked around Christmas. I might be taking a bit of a break. We will see. But yeah, I will see you all, no doubt, in the week anyway. So until next time, peace, namaste, and blessed be.